weird my hair's looking.
Is it weird enough?
No, it's just... I could have hoped for weirder, but I thought, you know.
So now...
So is it on the electric now? Or
no, I don't know that it will. Yes,
it charges itself.
It charges itself.
Yeah.
It's not a plug-in. That's the next generation, is your plug-in hybrid. Will it?
But then you need a drive, don't you? Sort of.
Well, I've got a garage.
Right.
Yeah, with a plug.
Yeah.
So I realise I'm very privileged.
Well, it's different. Yeah. Where do you live?
In the Cotswolds.
Right. So yes, it's not.
It's a different.
But in London, have you a garage or a drive is unusual, isn't it?
I've got a garage in London. I'm very like an underground.
Oh, right.
But it doesn't have a plug. So if I did have an electric car, I had to somehow do a thing where I run a wire from my flat.
Right.
The 390 metres around a concrete building.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can have one plug socket or some. I don't know what the arrangement would be. I mean, I suppose the theory is that if they become more common, then there'd be everywhere you park, there'd be a little plug thing, and you plug it in, and it would read your car's sensor thing, and it would charge you an account for the. I've just read this thing about it, but I had no idea that in the next sort of 10 years, the country's facing like a massive energy crisis because all the power stations are going out. They're all too old.
Yeah.
We've not replaced them.
Yeah.
And they take years to build, and no one's done it. And what are we going to do? We're not going to have it. We won't have the internet.
Yeah. Well, that's because they. I mean, I don't know. Is that because they privatised the electricity firms? Because when this infrastructure was built, it was nationalised.
We'd all paid for it,
and you just build it sensibly. Yeah. Because you need that, and now they've been saying,
well, we so much money. They're not going to waste money building a power station.
We need short-term gain. Yeah. Yes. We're not going to be still running this company in 10 years' time.
No.
And the same with the politicians thought, well, we're not going to be running the country in 10 years' time, so we might as well sell off everything.
Because I don't like to have those thoughts because they've been so unpopular for so long, but I think they're coming back into vogue.
Well, yeah. I
think just suddenly realising.
Just never made... So I'm not a particularly... Well, I suppose I'm centre-left, but but it never made sense to me to privatise the utilities because you can't have meaningful competition.
No.
And what is the competition? The competition is different people who come round to your flat and waste your time saying, can you say a British Gas giving you your electricity rather than N-Power rather than whatever.
Yeah.
But also, at least the inadequacies of the rail network when it was British Rail was something that we were suffering, but we were also the profiteers.
Yes.
Not that it ever made a profit, it doesn't make a profit now. But, you sort of think, well, this sandwich is terrible and overcharged for. But nevertheless, that money is kind of, in some way, sustaining this system.
Yes. Whereas now, but that's the other thing, is that it's privatised, and we also, we as taxpayers, we still pay for them.
Yeah.
They're still subsidised. So we're subsidising private companies who make a lot of money out of us standing on trains.
Yes, because they're a private company, they have to. And what you don't get is in the railways at all, is any of the the upside of a private business in terms of the attitude of the staff or anything. It's not like they're immediately as keen as a waiter entirely paid on tips in an American diner. They're still grumpy and miserable and assume you haven't got a ticket. Can't we try and live the dream of something in national hands that is efficient? I mean, presumably that's what we think the army is.
Yes.
Presumably we don't think it would be better just to hire some mercenaries to go and sort out Iraq. And the Tories would be the last people to call our brave soldiers feckless public servants. So
you just can't do a job properly.
If the army is best in public hands, then why not utilities?
And that's another really difficult one, because actually one of the solutions, very contentious, one of the solutions to a carbon-free economy is 210 nuclear power stations, which is all we'd need to generate more power than we do have.
They're much more efficient, aren't they? And they produce much less waste than they did in Tony Benn's era.
Yes. And I mean, I think one of a rather disturbing argument is that if you're an eco warrior that lives in Brighton, and I think there's probably quite a few there, you're actually living nearer to the most nuclear power stations in the world, because the northern coast of France is just one long ribbon of nuclear power stations, which is only just 400 miles over the sea.
Well, they're totally reliant on it, aren't they? Because they didn't have as much coal as us, or gas.
70% of their power is nuclear.
And they haven't had touch wood, they haven't had a Chernobyl. They've just been careful.
Yeah.
The bloke that said stick it all in the rainforest.
What's that?
There's a bloke who said, I mean, it's quite a prominent kind of...
If it's protected, Well, the rainforest protecting you, bury it.
Well, I think the thing is, the point he was making is that the one thing that nuclear waste doesn't do is stop life. It's bad for gives humans cancer.
Right.
But it doesn't actually give humans cancer for as long or as badly as some people thought.
No.
But it doesn't kill trees or stop insects or this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And actually, people don't live in the rainforests.
No.
It sort of makes, it's the kind of thing that it sounds like a horrific idea.
Yeah.
But then I'm not sure I can see the flaw in it.
No.
And also, it's going to stop. It's going to stop people chopping them down.
Yes.
Because they're not going to want to go there.
Yeah. So I don't know what did you study at uni? I mean, I'm only interested because I didn't do uni and I was meant to. I was groomed to do it and I blew it. I got expelled from school, never went.
I did history, but
lovely.
I didn't really do very much history there. I did mainly comedy.
But you were born and raised in Oxford, is that right? So you're from
right.
Oxford, but you went to Cambridge?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Because I felt like a massive change.
Yes.
But
I'm going to go somewhere completely different to this, Dad.
Exactly. They call them courts, not quads. It's all different.
Yeah.
Different name for the people who, hoover your room for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, and I sort of, it was when I got to university I realised that I wasn't by nature an academic, and I'd just done that because I was a SWAT, and at school it was a way to define yourself as, I was define myself as one of the people who was good at lessons, because that was better than not being good at anything. It was never going to be rugby, which is obviously the thing that at schools like mine you get most cachet for being good at.
Good at rugby.
Sadly, not in life.
No.
I discovered at university that it was my favourite school subject rather than the thing I wanted to do with my life.
Right.
But at the same time, I said, if you don't want to explain things, then you're a moron.
Yes.
And as far as I'm concerned, trying to explain things through, what the molecules people and things are made up of, or the chemicals and how they react to each other, there's an incredibly sort of round the houses, I don't want to know that. I assume that will keep going whether or not I understand it. I want to know why. Why are we in a country called Britain?
Yes.
Why are these people in charge?
Yes.
That seems to me the direct way of generally explaining things. And, well, I've got obviously a lot of time for, the scientific urge to explain.
Yeah.
I think that's for me always been a little bit secondary to the, specifically explain, what this stuff is, and don't tell me what it is at a subatomic level.
Yes. Yes. But absolutely, and also even the history of anything I think is vital, because it's so easy to accept the world we live in now as that's the way it is, and the reason it's the way it is because of what's happened before. And the reason there's a road here and it's covered in oil-based stone. Everything, all the thing, just like
How does this road get to be? What did people said we should have roads? How did they sort that out?
Yeah.
It's one of the things that it annoys me when people say, why are we always going on about the war in this country?
Right.
And I think, well, the war is incredibly important and by any reasonable standards incredibly recent.
Yes.
What we are living in is a post-war society. And obviously that slightly changes, it gets more distant, and we're also post-Cold War now, and there are other important things, and there were things before it. But it is not an insane thing to focus on.
No.
Doesn't make you a train spotter to see that as an important thing.
Yes.
And also that people, I would think the context with which people despise their own society is quite an important thing to realise. If you see what I mean, when people slag off the government or the West or all these things, and there are many reasons to slag such things off, but you've got to realise that most humans at most times in history have had a hell of a time and have had no say at all in what happens to them, and this, that and the other, and while there's no reason just to say so be grateful, you to a certain extent we need to be a bit grateful.
Yes.
And still try and improve things and stop things getting worse and all that. But we're all lucky not to be a Chinese peasant dying in the 4th century AD at the age of 7.
Yes.
That's because that's about par.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It's very
interesting. A very butch man with a handbag. Yeah.
He was incredibly huge. He must have depleted uranium in that bag. That's why his shoulders are...
It's so enormous.
Yeah.
That's one of the criticisms I've had on Twitter is, why do you point things out that you can see from the car when we can't see them? And that was a classic example.
Right.
Because I don't have... I should have 50 cameras all around the cars pointing out to them.
Well, do people disbelieve us?
No, I don't.
We've said, there was a
man.
extremely muscly butch man.
He said, no, there isn't.
With a small cream lady's handbag.
He did. Definitely had a handbag. And he wasn't carrying it in shame, was he? He was
no.
He had it. He was ripping it.
It was probably...
my bag.
Yeah. It was probably a minder for Madonna.
Yeah, that's what it is.
She's just popped into for a kebab. Yeah.
I'm doing a bit of Westway now. The super fast way to the BBC.
Excellent. It was built entirely for the BBC, wasn't it?
The Westway I always think of as
by
the BBC
licence fee payers' money spent on this luxury road.
It was really for executives, BBC executives, to be able to get from the West End to television centre.
So only recently the public's been allowed on it. Yeah. There's still a lane for Wogan. Yeah. Well, the thing is, what it is the Daily Mail attack on the BBC is like a private hospital launching an attack on the NHS.
Yes.
It's disgraceful how we want everyone to pay for their operations, and then we'd all be looking back in 10 years' time saying, do you remember when we dismantled the best public service broadcaster in the world that every other country in the world said, why didn't we set up one of them in the days when you could still set up things like that? And we'd be like the Euston Arch, except with considerably more impact on people as we all sit there watching the remains of ITV, which is just all night gambling. People focus on Jonathan Ross and this as if the BBC provides nothing else. As if, these however much the stuff that Jonathan Ross does or Russell Brand does isn't going to be the kind of thing you want. There's still Songs of Praise and Antiques Roadshow and the Archers and the news website and the news every day. Faithfully reporting how much of a kicking the BBC's been given. And it would all go. It's all or nothing. You don't get to choose.
No.
But there are people who say that you can have some sort of system where you cherry pick the services. Talking out their arses, it would not work.
I've just gone the wrong way. I was so enthralled by
the pro BBC rant by the person who obviously is employed by the BBC and would personally lose considerably were it to cease to exist. I accept my biases there.
It's very good that you're honest about that.
But I literally get paid barely half what Jonathan Ross gets paid.
That's outrageous.
I know.
It's terrible.
Another reason why history is a good subject is that people really, context and empathy doesn't come as naturally to people as perhaps it should. And you sort of think, we all think, very lucky to be doing this, very, etc. But broadly speaking, if you've just burnt your finger on the toaster or whatever, all you can think about is my finger hurts. My finger, never mind, Darfur.
Yes.
My finger hurts.
Can
we sort my finger? It's like with charities. That actually people can only, and charities try terribly hard to sort of say huge statistic of people are fucked.
Yes.
And you go, well, that's obviously awful, but you don't really feel that because you can't in any sense feel, if there are 2 million people starving, you don't feel 2 million. You don't feel 1 times what it feels like to really feel you should have lunch now.
Yes.
Let alone 2 million times what it feels like to see all your friends and relatives have not. It's impossible to empathise with that kind of pain. But if there's a friend of yours who's starving to death, then people would go, oh Christ, we ought to, someone should get Steve a sandwich.
Yeah. Or a bun at least.
Definitely. And it's bringing the Get Steve a sandwich down to the Get Steve a sandwich level, and that's why they'll write you a letter and all this sort of thing.
Now here's the magnificent BBC, which was obviously a centre of Red Nose Day.
Yes. And it's a building which I hope they're not going to have to sell.
Don't get rid of that.
No, it's
goodness sake.
It's an icon.
And the studio. There's so many studios empty there.
Yeah.
Well, they're not using the bloody studios, which is.
But also, if they do get rid of it, there aren't. I don't think they're. Well, I don't know, but there aren't many other studios like that in London.
No, not that size. No,
there's the one.
You've got to go to bloody. I mean, I worked in Shepperton for years, working for the BBC, and I went, why don't we do it there?
Yeah,
it would have been really handy. Could have walked to work. I mean, I basically saw you. I think the first time probably aware of you was, I'm just wondering whether it was Peep. I mean, did you do Peep Show before Mitchell and Webb?
Well,
I can't remember which way
yes.
that
Basically, when Rob and I worked together for years and met at university, sort of thing, and we spent several years developing stuff and trying to earn a living, and we're doing all right as writers,
right?
And got the odd bit on telly, and we did bits in a show called Comedy Nation. We did a BBC Two sketch show called Bruiser that was on in the middle of the night,
right?
But it was going all right, but not brilliantly. And then Peep Show happened. Basically, Peep Show happened, and we got a radio series on Radio 4 kind of at the same time.
And that's where you did Mitchell and Webb was originally on the radio.
Started on the radio, yeah.
I think I'd seen probably, say, 8 episodes of that over a couple of years.
Right.
Assuming you'd written it.
Yes.
Was that very common?
A lot of people assume that. And it's sort of odd for us because we started, we wanted to be writer-performers always, but we kind of imagined that we made money writing before we made money performing,
right. And
we imagined we'd break in that way. And so it was odd that the thing that most people initially knew us from was a thing we performed in but didn't write.
Yeah.
But it was written for us by Sam Bain and Jesse Armstrong, who are friends of ours who we'd worked with before, and
right.
So and they're brilliant.
It is legendary.
As a writer, I'm so conscious of how much of a comedy show is dependent on that, and that is the key skill, rather than performing.
Absolutely. I mean, because that's what I always say when people ask me about Red Dwarf, is that, I mean, the main reason I stuck with it, when there were plenty of times when I was under rubber, when I was quite determined that I would never do another fucking Red Dwarf by now, because it melted my brains out.
Yes.
But the writing, those two writers, when it was Rob and Doug and Doug Naylor, extraordinary skill.
But when the lines are really good, you sense, well, this has got to be it.
Yeah.
When we first read this, that was bang on, and that's how it's got to be. Yeah. So it's got to be, but I think, not, but I think it's,
Yes. So, I mean, that is tightly scripted then, Peep Show.
Yeah. We chip in the odd joke at the rehearsal stage and that sort of thing, but on the day, a lot of people ask, because it sort of feels, it's got that point of view style, it sort of feels like it might be. That's right, yeah. It feels like it might be improvised.
You're just,
but you can't. And you can't shoot in that style if you change anything, because you need so much coverage.
Yes.
So on the day, you pretty much have to stick with what's on the script. Well, people want whether they're going to watch it through a computer or on a DVD or whatever. People want to watch television.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change. But there's just a worry about the transitional period and how if advertisers don't advertise on television, how does television get paid for?
Yes.
But that's why, thank God, we've got the BBC that can sort of
actually do stuff.
Can carry on, over this, and can do things like iPlayer without worrying.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is something that makes the Daily Mail even angrier and keener to destroy it. Making your own television is obviously, I mean, that's what this is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But and that's still a bit of a culture shock for me, in that my television for me is something where you need 35 people.
Yeah.
And with all their skills and their technology, and
if there's not someone there in a puffer jacket with a clipboard, I really don't know where I am.
Exactly. There need to be lots of vans.
Yeah.
And and I think there's certainly a lot of television you can't make without that. And the fear is, for me, that there will be fewer proper programs because of the ability to make cheap things easily. And that doesn't mean that cheap things shouldn't be made easily, but what mustn't happen is that it means we can't have you've got to have Cranford. That's what I say. Yes. And you can't do Cranford on your phone.
No, you can't. I'm just wondering, do I do a
sorry, yes, a right at some point. Sorry, I've slightly I should have told you to take a right earlier. I've just slightly I got it into my head that you knew where you were going.
I have a vague geographical grasp of where we are, but it was very vague. I'm very impressed that two gentlemen from very different generations can agree on so much.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you
for carpooling, and good luck with your soapbox.
Thank you very much. No,
I think you'll continue to be number 1, and I'll be number 8.
I think I'm 2 now. Actually.
But you were knocked off for a night by
It was
by Comic Relief.
All right.
But I think you were back there last time.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah. Yes, I mustn't. I must try not to get competitive about that, because it will end, whatever. You know. So this too shall pass.
This is great. I can't imagine what this would be like for sound. That was a brutal cover. I've just remembered I haven't taken the aerial off the roof. It's bendy. God, it's the noisiest car wash I think I've ever been in.